smart. Hit a ball. Park him, hit it out. And, it's weird, I guess. It's weird. You have sunny balls?
You want the used ball, right?
These are the old ones.
Yeah, that's it. How many overs into the game you are?
Probably like 10. Probably 8, I'm not sure.
Take a new one.
Hey! Perkins hit it out of the park. Which means. Actually, no. Perkins reminds me of Shida Freedy. 664 out. 462 out.
What are they doing? It says a slide now.
Okay, good. Perfect.
Are we back on?
So when we can start again.
Yeah, you can start.
Welcome back to Paul Rushing Park in Katy. We had a few technical issues, and those technical difficulties. Oh, this is slapped towards extra cover for 2. Yes, good save. But those technical issues, I think, prevented the rest of us who are joining us on the broadcast from seeing probably the innings of the tournament so far. Roshni, John Campbell with a brutal and imperious innings of some 67 runs or so. We'll verify his exact score in a minute. 67 runs in somewhere around 20 odd balls, had a strike rate of somewhere around 300 throughout. And as a result of that, in the eighth over, the current score is 105 for 2. Absolutely brutal innings. Sorry that we were not able to carry it live, but the end result is that we're seeing a really interesting game. What a shot over extra cover for 6. And the end result is that we're looking at a total here that very well could be in excess of 250 runs, Roshni.
Absolutely. I think, the momentum that John Campbell brought in, he scored 71 runs off of just 24 balls, 7 of those being sixes and 5 boundaries.
Wow.
So his strike rate being 295 has been absolutely. It gave, I think, a set point for these guys to go out and hit the shots they are hitting.
Let him walk.
We're lucky that the skies aren't too bad, but it's been raining sixes at this point.
Well played.
All over.
Well played.
So hopefully we keep seeing this happen throughout the weekend and that we have that sun, but these guys are just going off. I think they know that they need to put up a good total, and they're already there. Where they're, they only need to get more runs, and I think, as you mentioned, the score can very much go past that 240 into the 250s range, and then it'll be competition on for the Stallions. We've seen the Stallions, put up scores over 200, and I think these are the guys who can definitely give them a very competitive fight, which I don't think they have had so far in the 3 matches they've played. So we are going to witness a very, very competitive match with very strong batting lineup from both sides, even with the bowling. But right now with the Houston Stars, I think the Stallions are trying to figure out what can they do to get some wickets, because luckily they got John Campbell out with a amazing catch. I think Ali Hussein taking that catch was very, very impressive. And now I think they definitely need to get a few more wickets and kind of build, decrease that momentum that's going on right now. I mean, we're seeing sixes all over.
Well, if there is something that was going to slow the momentum of the Houston Stars, it would be the injury or the apparent injury that we're seeing now that is being suffered by Damon Ebanks. Moving very gingerly, he was being stretched out there for a second by a couple of the Houston Stallions players. Don't exactly know what the issue was, did not see him get injured, but you also have to consider that under the really hot, humid conditions here in Houston in July, that cramps very well could be a factor, and that might be what he's suffering from. Still seems to be moving very gingerly, but he's going to attempt to keep going. Here's the last ball coming up now of the 8th over. just pushes this down to a long off for a single.
And we
That
just saw
is the
some.
end of the over. And your thoughts, Moise?
Yeah, that was a great over for the Stars. We just saw some great running and pacing from number 21. It says Nitesh Kumar on his jersey, but yeah, but that was some great running. Hopefully he doesn't tire himself out because these are shaping to be some long innings for the Stallions, especially in these hot conditions. It's pushing almost in the mid to high 90s, and it's quite humid here in Katy, next to Houston, Texas. But phenomenal performances put on by the Stars. I feel like this is the only team so far that the Stallions have played that have actually openly challenged and contested them. The Gladiators, the Power Stars, and the Hurricanes went off pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, the Stars are the team to look out for.
The change of bowling from the north end will determine who that new bowler here is shortly. Full outside off. It's going to be wide. Oh, no ball. No ball signaled by umpire Rakesh Jain. Not sure exactly why it was a no ball. Now both umpires are walking over to confer with each other. If it was an overstep, then certainly that's unforgivable. But the umpires are discussing things. Potentially, it might have been not enough people inside the circle. I don't know that that's what it is. Either way, and yep, definitely confirmation of a no ball and a free hit. So, in looking around, not exactly sure why it was a no ball, but either way, free hit, good delivery, fast outside off stump, and a big swing and a miss by Damien Ebanks. So ultimately, the free hit does not hurt them, but it appears that there's enough people in the circle, so it may have been an overstep. Driven square away by Ebanks. Of course, he suffering an injury, so you don't expect him to try to run two on that. So it ends up being just a very long single.
The bowler that's into the attack is Abizia. We also know opens for the Stallions, so his all-rounder abilities have definitely brought in to hopefully constrict runs or take a wicket for the team.
Well, Owezia looked unbeatable with the bat yesterday, and you mentioned that he's a very good all-rounder, and I think he's showing that capability here. A quick off spin that can sometimes be very difficult to score off of. So based on the first few deliveries that he's bowled here, save for the no ball, he appears that he's capable of pulling things back. And if anything, the main thing that the Stallions need to do right now is just simply stall the momentum of the Stars. Full delivery outside off that's guided to deep backward point by Ebanks, but no run scored. 118 for 2 to score. Hammered in the air toward extra cover, one bounce. Saved out there by a good piece of fielding. And again, with Ebanks hobbling, they have to settle for that one run. So 2 balls, I believe, remaining in the 9th over. The score is 119 for 2. So a lot of the momentum, of course, having come out of the inning so far with the dismissal of John Campbell. And then the runs are now coming in singles versus 4s and 6s, as was the case a couple of deliveries or a couple of overs earlier. So at the end of things, 120 for 2 after 9 overs. Ahmed Butt 6 from 11. Damien Ebanks will get his numbers here shortly. Ebanks 22 not out of 13. Make that Ahmed Butt 7 from 12. Zishan Ashraf 7. And of course, John Campbell, we talked about 72 or 71 from 24 balls. 120 for 2, Roshni. The momentum has really slowed down in the last couple of overs, again, particularly with the dismissal of John Campbell. But do you think that they can recover to get to a score that they were looking at getting, let's say, 2 overs ago?
I think it will be tough to maybe, have that momentum for that 240, 250 range. It has slowed down a bit, and I think for them, I have been seeing a bit, a bit of the try to, go for those boundaries, go for those big sixes, but it hasn't really clicked. So I think that is something that the batsmen are trying to do, and I feel like, for the Stallions, they might want to use that to their advantage, to try to bowl them a ball where they, try to go for that shot and get someone to be, especially with the field placing, setting up the batsman, I think would be great to get a wicket in. I think the momentum, the Stallions have done a great job in keeping that down. So I think it's really up to Ebanks and Ahmed Butt to, keep that momentum going that was already lost. So they need to build it back up. So this way, if they do lose a wicket, someone else can come in and start hammering as well, or, not really have to kind of worry about or have that pressure in to build up an innings.
Direct hit on the throw there towards the non-striker's end. Fielder in the covers picked up, didn't have very many stumps to aim at, maybe 1.5 stumps to aim at, and hit the base of the off stump. But Ahmed Butt, good athletic running, made his ground in time. So he always going to experience some excitement on the direct hit, but ultimately Ahmed Butt made his ground in time. So Ebanks now on strike. He's facing up against Hamid Azam. Wide outside off stump. Ebanks tries to reach it, not able to reach it, but adjudged wide by the umpire. So another run to the total. 122 for 2 to score.
Hamad Azam has also been a key player for the Stallions, both with his batting abilities and bowling abilities. He's already had 2 Player of the Match awards. So bringing him on is also, a good standpoint for the Stallions. They know they can also rely on him to keep those runs still, constricted, and hopefully getting these batsmen to become a little bit more frustrated.
On the leg side, another wide adjudged by umpire Naveed Siddiqui.
Wide ball.
Things certainly slowing down here in the last couple of overs, but give credit to where credit is due. Stallions is trying to claw their way back into this game. And this is another single. The ball pushed all the way down to long off. Ahmed Azam, right-handed bowler, bowling over the wicket to the left-handed Damien Ebanks. As we always say, beware the wounded batsman. Hammer it over the top of extra cover. 1 bounce for 4. Lovely shot. Ebanks opening himself right up. That front leg went splayed towards the onside and wide open in his stance. Hammers this ball away over extra cover for 4. $126, 128 for 2. Azam again. Full inside edge onto the pads, and the ball rolls all the way down to deep square leg for another single. I erred a second ago. I said 128 for 2. It was actually 130 for 2. The score now 131. And I believe 1 ball remaining in the in the 10th over. And here it is. Ahmed Butt defending into the covers, and they run through for a single. So Butt will keep the strike. Another decent over here for the Houston Stars. And at the end of 12, the score is 132 for 2, Rashmi. Deliver it down the leg side, and they steal. Well, it was wide to begin with, and then they steal an additional run. So 2 runs to the total. You know, it's always been said, Moise, that if you double the score after 12 overs, you will get what the final score will be. Bang! That is 6 runs. That is a gigantic stroke. My goodness, that ball was hit a long way. So back to my statement. After 12, the score was, after 12, the score was 132. Is that right? No, we're not even at 12 yet. So we're into the 11th over. Based on that alone, I would think that we're looking at a total in excess of 250. Are we going to get there? I don't know. But if you're going to ask me to give you an exact number, that number is going to be 254.
Below 240. Or maybe 230, actually.
Below 230.
Yeah, below 230.
Okay, so I know of no number that starts with the word below. So give me an exact number.
Not out.
229, my number was 254. Oh, we will see. Bearing in mind the lineup, bearing in mind the two who are now at the wickets, bearing in mind that if this pair stays there for another 5 or 6 overs, then Sean Finley will be coming in with only a limited number of balls to face. This is driven down the ground. That's going to be... Oh, he stopped that with his foot, I believe. I don't know that that's the smartest thing to do, but he certainly prevented 4. Well, it didn't prevent 4. They scored 2, so he prevented 2 runs. Ball struck very firmly down the ground by Ebanks. I think injured or not, and you saw what he did last night, even on one leg. If he comes in anytime in the next, let's say, 3 or 4 overs, he will have full license to do whatever he wants to. So even if he is on no legs, he'd be a big threat. This ball is driven down the ground, not timed very well, and Ebanks will get a single. 142 for 2 the score with 1 ball remaining. And while we will not ask Roshni what she thinks the total is going to be, I will ask her, Roshni, do you think the scoring rate is going to decrease or increase in the next couple of overs as compared to where we are now? Right now we're scoring at somewhere around 11 and over, 12 and over.
I would say I think it's going to stay around the same. Maybe if it does decrease a little or increase a bit, but I think it's going to stay around the same. I think with these two going, and even with the incoming batsmen, I think they can keep just this momentum going. But I think it depends on how many wickets they lose. I feel like these guys are getting in pretty set and are also, having some helmet changes. I think they're looking to stay on the crease right now. And we were talking about Sean Finley, which I don't know if he would come in next or a bit little later because due to his injury, he has the abilities we've seen in all the games to really get going and add that fire into. I think the only thing that they are missing out from him is his bowling. Especially after that injury, he hasn't been bowling. He's been taking on the batting role, lower down the order. But that is something, and that's why I think the team is also trying to, get a good score in so that they don't have to have that. Because I think that when they lost the 1 game yesterday, I think they were really missing Sean's bowling. Because we know how important his role is, when it comes to bowling. He was the man of the match in the first game that they played yesterday. And I think that is something, And one of the reasons why, we saw the captain, John, come out and play the innings he did and try to get that. So I think the momentum's going to keep going at the same rate.
That's interesting analysis. So if I'm understanding your thinking, you're thinking that the Stars are planning on scoring so heavily that they don't need Sean Finley with the ball today. And then effectively you're preserving him for the playoffs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm not sure how his injury still is, but I know in the past games he hasn't been bowling. And I did notice, from that bowling attack that, his role was crucial, especially in getting in. When we're looking at a high-scoring game and knowing the Stallions and, their capability with their batsmen and chasing as well, I think, Houston starts putting that up. And there's not as much pressure for all the bowlers, And this way, Sean also doesn't have to come in and step in. He might, be like, it's okay, I have this injury, I need to get a wicket for my team. If he doesn't have to do that, then, you rest him and you need him when you need him most. When the games actually start mattering and each game becomes a do or die situation.
That's an interesting thought. Another thing to consider, if I remember correctly, he injured his right foot or his right knee yesterday. He's a right-handed bowler. I'll continue that thought shortly. Well played by Ahmed, but into the covers. Oh, they run on the missed field, which you're always taught as a cricketer to never do. They get away with it here, and they steal a single on the infield. So he injured his his right knee. As a right-handed fast bowler, he plants his left foot to deliver the ball. So you would think, not that it would ever be easy to bowl with an injury of that magnitude, but if he were able to bowl, he would be planting his healthy foot to deliver the ball. His relatively healthy foot, of course. But I don't know what the injury is like, but that's something to consider and something to keep looking out for.
And now Wasim Yalani comes up to bowl, and he had a 19-run over. Very expensive, to say the least, and it got the Stars off to a phenomenal. And just like that, another
in the air, well over mid-wicket for 6 more to Damien Ebanks. Now, you're going to hear me say something that I've said 100 times so far. As a right-handed bowler, if you're bowling to a left-handed batsman, if you're bowling around the wicket to him, you are inviting him to play the shot that he just played. You've got to get to the point where you're slanting the ball across him. Otherwise, you're going to see a repeat of that same shot on this ball. Oh, slashed away in the deep. Oh, he misjudged it. Came running in, then hesitated, and then accelerated towards the ball at the last second. If he had judged that all the way, he would have been able to get there in time. As it is, the misjudged attempt at a catch results in a single in the deep on the cover or on the offside to Ebanks.
hesitation like that can cost them the game, essentially. And I don't think they're going to get another chance to strike out Ebanks anytime soon.
Now, in fairness, and I'll continue that thought shortly. Oh, lovely shot there by Ahmed, but flicked down the left side. They get one, and they'll definitely get two. Lovely.
What a great shot.
In addition to all of the crazy hitting, there is still room in T20 for proper cricket shots. And that's what you just saw from Ahmed. But again, in fairness to the fielder in the deep who just dropped that catch, it is always difficult to judge a ball that is hit flat and hard coming right at you. The ball is up in the air. You have more time to judge it and to see where it's going to end up. And in all likelihood, if the ball is hit flat at you, it becomes much more difficult to judge. So he would have seen it come off the bat. He would have judged it to some extent, and then he apparently lost it and then slowed down and then accelerated at the last second trying to get to that ball and ended up with the drop. We'll see how expensive that drop is because Ebanks is the man at the bat and he is still there.
Ebanks has been playing absolutely phenomenal.
In the air, flat. Oh, a diving attempt by this fielder down at long off. That is really a good attempt. He saw it well and went for the catch, dove, and it came off the tips of his fingers not able to complete the catch, and it goes away for 4.
Yeah, you can see the frustration on his face, letting Damian Ebanks go
We
yet
also
again.
we also have to remember Ali Hussein was actually the one who got that catch from John Campbell. So, you know, he is an incredible fielder. So unfortunately this one, you know, didn't go so well for him, but he's been an incredible fielder, and especially that catch that he took of John Campbell was brilliant. So
And Damian Ebanks is nearing a half century, so absolutely phenomenal performances. We saw class earlier from the Power Stars. Now we're seeing absolute power and domination by the Houston Stars.
Tell you what, 48 from 24 for Ebanks. Ahmed Butt playing the anchor role, 15 from 19. But you would think that the Stars have recovered the momentum that we spoke about earlier that they'd lost after the fall of Campbell's wicket. They seem to have regained, and Ebanks in particular is looking really, really threatening, Munir.
He really is, and this has been one of the most fiery innings we've seen so far in the HPL. And we're gonna give you quick updates from that's what's almost a do or die game for these two powerhouses in the form of Knight Riders and Gladiators. Jaskaran Malhotra is putting on quite a display along with Janisar Khan. Knight Riders lost the toss and they were put into bat by Gladiators. Jaskaran is approaching a 50. He was on 36 of 29 at the end of 11 overs. We just saw him hit a 6 and a 4. So he's almost around his 50, and Janisar Khan is also starting to get a few. So it's our guess is we'll wait for the score to update at the end of the 12th over. But our guess is that Knight Riders are about 90 for 2 at the end of 12 overs. And the wickets that were taken so far were Majid Rizvi, who scored 18 of 20. And he was just dismissed by Jagrit Raj. And William Perkins scored 8 of 7, and he was bowled by Gaurav Bajaj. So that's a fixture we're going to keep an eye on and get you updates as much as we can. Back to you, Brian.
That's interesting. If I remember correctly, one of the umpires came over here to look for a ball because William Perkins hit the ball over into the next county.
And that's the 1-6 we see on the scorecard out of the score of 8 that Perkins got. But not much besides that. So
That's interesting.
I think Knight Riders were counting on Jaskaran and Perkins big time to deliver. Now that Perkins didn't get going, I think the onus is on Jaskaran big time. Besides Janisar Khan also. These two are the two powerhouses now in the dugout. In fact, in the middle for the Knight Riders with the likes of Jawad Khalid still to come. And yep, like you mentioned, Brian, we have a friend running from the east field looking for another ball.
It
So
looks like one of the batsmen started running without his his glove fell off and took the bat along with it. So we decided to keep going. It's sad to see William Perkins go after all these expectations that have been put on him. But if the Knights can perfectly time shot right there.
That is a big wicket. That is an absolutely big wicket. Ball outside off stump. Ebanks could potentially have put that anywhere, and he ends up only spooning a catch to the fielder, short third man. So Ebanks departs
That's out.
on 49, one short of what would have been a fantastic 50, but he unfortunately has to make the long walk to the pavilion. 162 for 3 to score.
Yeah, I ended up eating my words right there. I was going to talk about how that was a perfectly timed shot, and I missed to see that it went straight into the hands of the fielder. So, Ebanks putting up a great show, but this momentum has been curbed for the time being. But is that Sean Finley coming back up? And we all know Mr. Brian right here always says good things about Sean Finley, and he's always been delivering. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think this really pulls back a bit, to the Stallions, especially after those 2 drop catches, to get Ebanks out. And they finally are able to send him back out. So this is definitely good from the Stallions. And the Stars, I mean, they don't have to worry too much. Ebanks went out. They have Sean Finley back in. So hopefully, for Sean, he just kind of, I know he's not going to be running as much in between the wickets. I think he's going to mainly go for playing those shots. He did mention about, he's not trying to run too much because he doesn't want his injury to get worse. And I think that's what the team would also want because, they can't really miss out on Sean for the rest of the games.
Well, I'm reminded, and this is all well before you were born, but when the great West Indian teams of the 80s were playing, when Gordon Greenwich and Desmond Haynes were blasting the bowling to all corners in some park anywhere in the world, the statement was that you didn't necessarily want to get either one of them out. Because if you did, Viv Richards was coming in next. And in much the same way, Ebanks getting out, you almost don't want to celebrate because the person who's coming in now is much more destructive than Ebanks. And the first ball that he faces is banged right down the ground for 4. So this partnership, we've said it a couple of times today, this partnership certainly will have a lot to do with how the rest of this innings progresses. But if Finlay is there for any length of time, that 250 that we talked about earlier is more than on the cards.
Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned, with the Stars, I think their lineup, one goes in, you get someone who's just as capable to do whatever that batsman was doing, to fill in that momentum, to fill in that space, so that, they don't really need as much time. We've seen that so far. The Stars don't really need as much time to build up a momentum. I think most of them have gotten it, get set, and then, are firing. So it's definitely still a long way to go, and we're definitely going to see a lot more blistering shots.
So 1 ball remaining in this over by Awazia. Good quick off spinner left alone by Finlay. And that ends the 13th over. Score after 13 is 166 for 3.
And that also ends Alessia's bowling spell. So he did take the 2 wickets. Stallions will definitely need to, look into who will be bowling and try to definitely, I think their goal will be to get Finlay out and then add more of that pressure. Because the Stars, as I mentioned, I think are definitely looking to get past or press 220, get into the 230s range to really give Stallions a competitive total.
First delivery of the 13th over is down the leg side, or the 14th over rather, down the leg side. Hamad Azam, the bowler, seen a few wides already in this innings, and Azam starts with a wide down the leg side. This will be his last over. 44 runs given up in the first 3. Oh, fishing outside is AB Ahmed, but was not able to make contact, but luckily for him also did not come off the edge of the bat. Hamid Azam, much more expensive than he would have liked, but unfortunately for him, he was bowling when John Campbell was doing John Campbell things. Quick single now taken. Well, I say quick single. A single taken because we don't suspect that Sean Finlay will be running any quick singles. And again, carrying the injury that he is, I suspect that he will only be looking to hit the long ball here. I don't suspect that he'll be looking to scramble 2s or 3s or anything along those lines. So looking at the field setting, long on and long off are relatively straight. The man at cow corner is not too far away from long on. So you suspect that there's going to be very full straight bowling, and that's exactly what that ball was. Right up there, not quite in the block hole, but outside off stump. And as a six from the other ground ends up on this ground. There is so much hitting going on out here. But either way, Sean Finley not able to make contact with that previous delivery. And again, you suspect that this bowling is going to be full and straight. And as soon as I say that, there's a short ball that is slapped straight down the ground for 4. So the field is set for full and straight. And perhaps as I'm looking to play the double bluff and bowl the short delivery, but Finley equal to the task, slapping it straight. In fact, a ball that was that short, you would think would be played away on the leg side somewhere. That ball was actually hit straight back down the ground for 4.
Yeah, I think, one, due to the injury, he knows, what kind of shots he wants to play, and he's definitely kept an eye on the fields to meditate, where to be hitting the shots. And clearly we saw that boundary go right in between the long on and long off.
So on this occasion, he bowls more to the field that he has set. A very full delivery, in fact, a low full toss, and driven straight down the ground for a single. 172 now for 3 the score. 2 balls remaining in this over. Hamid Butt defending right back to the bowler, Hamid Azam. So Azam has 1 ball remaining in his spell. He has brought up 50, but not in the way that he would have wanted to. He has conceded 50 runs so far with 1 ball remaining in his spell.
I think bowling to players like John Campbell and Ebanks, get you that 50 as a bowler.
I completely agree. And in fact, I misspoke. That is the end of his spell. Score now 173 for 3 after 14 overs. And this next bowler, see Najaf Shah down there as a captain giving instructions to the next bowler. I believe that is Mohamed Irshad. I may be wrong. We'll get the name of the bowler here shortly. .172 for 3 with 6 overs remaining. So this definitely could go, still could go all the way into the 230, 240 range. Or in the alternative, if the Stallions tighten things up, and of course, remember that Najaf Shah still has a couple of overs left, they could very much restrict things. But first, let's see what happens. This is actually Wasim Gilani bowling in the 15th over. Right arm around the wicket, bowling to Sean Finley. Hammered through the offside. They'll get 1. Do they come back for the second? No, they don't. I have to say, Finley is actually running much better than I expected that he would be. I don't think that they'll be looking to have him push for 2s or 3s, but he does not seem to be impaired the way that I was expecting given his injury yesterday.
Yeah, I did have a word with him earlier, and it's a slight injury, but he's been able to bat. I think he's not going to, look for those quick singles, but, whenever he sees the ball and he can take a single, he's definitely going for the run. And I think it's much better than what we saw yesterday. I think yesterday when we saw that injury, it looked really bad, but it shaped up well.
Completely agree with you. They go through for that one. Unfortunately, now he is limping a little bit more on this run than he was the previous delivery. So, if you're him, you play within yourself. You certainly don't have a need to take any chances. You don't need to run any quick singles. And of course, if you have the ability to hit the long ball the way that he does, there is a chance that you may not need to run at all. If you're able to just connect the ball like you're capable of connecting, that certainly would not be an issue. And there he goes over the top of the cover area. They'll get 1 down the boundary. Thought about coming back for the second, but that's a good, strong throw down there by the fielder in the deep. So only 1. So 3 deliveries and 3 singles thus far in the 15th over. And it looks as though the Stallions have pulled things back a little bit. Again, bearing in mind that Najaf Shah still has a couple of overs left to bowl, you would think that that gives them an outside chance of being able to restrict things a little bit. Four singles now on the trot as Finley simply just walks that last single. Wasim Galani, this is his third over rather. Conceded 37 runs so far from 2 overs and 4 balls. Make that 38 from 2.4. It's a good delivery, slower delivery through the air. Finley checked his shot and then attempted to play a powerful stroke right after that. Mistimed it and it ended up hitting it back to the bowler. So 1 ball remaining here in the 15th over. Score 177 for 3. Advancing down the wicket, all the way down to cover point, and it's taken deep in just a few feet from the boundary. Finley throws his bat in the air in disgust. That is a big wicket, and that wicket, I think, is the difference between a score in the 250 area and a more manageable score for the Houston Stallions.
Yeah, I think for Finley, he definitely was trying to, go for those power shots because he had ran a couple of singles, and I think, I think he was feeling a little bit of that injury, and that's why I think he was trying to go for the shots, which unfortunately it brings him back into the dugout. So hopefully our incoming batsman, is able to also keep a momentum going, because on the other side, Ahmed Bhatt he's staying there, he's acting as an anchor for the incoming batsman, but he's yet to really start off and fire. So I think maybe with this, if we don't see anything really take off right now, the momentum can be brought down, which is really good for the Stallions. I mean, that's what they were looking to do. And I think they know that, Sean can't be running too many singles. So I think that was his goal, to try to give him a shot where he would take, go for a shot, because they could see that that's what he was kind of trying to do. It was becoming a bit difficult to be running every single single.
So that turns things around a little bit in the context of this match. The most dangerous hitter in the side is back in maybe the second most dangerous after John Campbell is back in the hut. The 3 power hitting Jamaicans have all been dismissed. Score now 177 for 4. And we're into the last 5 overs. A run a ball from here gets them to 207. I think they'll be looking for much more than that. They'd prefer to have more than that. And we'll get the name of the incoming batsman shortly. Ahmed Bhatt is the batter on strike. And the bowler is
Cameron Sheikh.
Cameron Sheikh.
So Cameron Sheikh had a miserable over when he was bowling towards John Campbell. I believe he had 3 sixes back-to-back off of it. But Cameron Sheikh has played in domestics. He's played in Baroda, so he has the experience. In other matches, he's gotten a crucial amount of wickets, but I think in this game, that matchup between him and John Campbell, it was John Campbell all the way with that destruction. So we'll see what he can do now. I think now he might want to try to, help up his bowling score.
Ball is pulled into the deep by Ahmed Bhatt. A little bit of scrambling around as the field is rearranged for the left-handed batsman, the incoming batsman, who is Ali Sheikh. Ali will be facing his first delivery from his namesake, Cameron Sheikh. Coming down and driving this ball down the ground. It should be an easy single. Now, the one thing, the element that was not in play when Sean Finley was batting Roshni is the quick 2s and 3s. But with two relatively, let's call them two relatively healthy batsmen at the crease, that certainly brings into the picture the ability to take quick 2s like this one, for example. If they wanted to, they could have easily tried to run 2.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we will see a lot of that, single doubles. We've already seen Ahmed Bhatt act as an anchor, so I think he's up for running the singles and doubles. So that will definitely help them. I think, if they can try to go for a boundary in every over, try to go for a 6 in every over, that'll definitely get them to the mark they're trying to look for.
Wow. Not sure what we're cheering for behind us, but they must be really happy with something that just happened. 181 for 4 here. And here's Ahmed Butt again down the ground. So 5 singles on the trots.
I think when we're going into day 2, and especially the 4th round of matches, we definitely see a lot of excitement when wickets are falling and teams are cheering, because everything really does start to matter when you look at the points table.
And you suspect that that noise that we just heard behind us may have been because of what you just said. Very full, in fact, a low full toss outside off stump. Driven down to long off for the 6th of 6 singles in the over. At the end of the over, the score is 183 for 4. $183 for 4. Ali Sheikh 3 from 3. Ahmed Butt 21 from 29. 16 overs up. The last 4 about to be bowled. And Captain Najaf Shah will take the ball and he will continue his spell from the north end. Najaf Shah bowling to Ali Sheikh. Wow. Ali Sheikh 3 from 3. Fielders on the boundary line are at sweeping on at cover, long on, long off. This ball is pushed to mid wicket for a quick single. Long on, long off, and deep square leg, at least for the left-hander. And then for the right-hander, a similar field. There's a deep square leg, long on, long off is still in place, and then there's a sweeper on the cover boundary.
All right, so I've stepped back in the commentator's booth. I know for a fact my commentary skills are not as hopeless as my camera skills, so glad to be back.
We're glad to have you, Moise.
Too.
Ball is driven through the offside for a single.
Gotta love the stamina that the Stars players have. They run every single opportunity they've got. Like if you look at the overs and like all the previous balls, they've never given up an opportunity to score an extra run or two here and there. There's a lot of boundaries, but there's also a lot of runs, and we have to appreciate how well conditioned these players are, especially playing in like high 90-degree weather. Like I've been sitting in the commentary booth drinking Fantas all day, and I'm still tired.
You know, you mentioned that you have to give it to them for being able to run around the way they are. My sentiment would be that you have to give it up to all of these cricketers, all of whom are playing 2 matches a day. 2 matches a day in and of itself is difficult. 2 matches a day in the heat and humidity of Houston is truly something to be amazed by. Ball is helped down the leg side for a quick single. So they run through for another single. If I'm not mistaken, actually 3 out of the last 4 balls have been singles. 3 runs from the over so far. 2 balls remaining. Najaf Shah's 3rd over. Driven really beautiful looking shot through extra cover. That man, very deep on the offside, deep extra cover position. Not a common position that you would see for a bowler of Najaf Shah's class, but apparently he set that field exactly the way that he wanted to because the ball went straight to that fielder.
For the Houston Stars, ever since they've lost their Jamaican players, I mean, there's been a bit of a drought when it comes to boundaries and sixes. I mean, luckily these two batsmen are really going at it, taking whatever singles and doubles they can. But that momentum that, you know, John Campbell had started has really, really come down. So we'll see if these two batsmen, if one of them decides that I'm going to take on that role and, you know, get comfortable with myself and just play some natural cricket. And we still have plenty of batsmen to come. So I think it'll be good for the Houston Stars to maybe start taking some risks. I think they definitely can afford to.
Nuestro mundo está evolucionando y por ello necesitamos un espacio donde se encuentra la variedad.
Hay un lugar en Katy donde puedes conseguir una variedad de platillos internacionales y eventos para la comunidad que no te puedes perder.
Pablos Restaurant and Club.
Menciona la frase Hola Pablo para reclamar tu 50% de descuento en la cuenta del restaurante.
Con ambiente familiar
y multicultural.
Come to Pablos Restaurant and Club.
You're muted, yeah. Oh, we're back. Okay, we're back. So, to just summarize what I just said, I was just talking about Cameron Sheikh, how this is one of his only underwhelming performances. He's been fairly economical these past 3 games that they played.
$189 for 4 in the 18. Oh, check that, 190 for 4 in the 18. Well, it's driven into the covers. In fact, Ali Sheikh had to actually reach for that one to be able to play it into the covers. Be interesting to see if it would have been a judge or wide had he not played it, but ends up being a single. 191 for 4.
I'm really curious to see how the Knights are playing right now. It is a do or die game for them. They lose this, they're put into a very tough spot, and it's difficult for them to qualify to the playoffs if they lose this. Same for the Gladiators.
So a lot of singles being taken here. 1 ball remaining in Cameron Sheikh's spell. We'll be bowling to Ali Sheikh. So far, none for 48 from his 3 overs and 5 balls. Does he bring up a 50? He does not bring up a 50, luckily for him. So no wickets for 49 runs. Decent enough spell for Cameron Shake in the context of this game. And that one single results in the score being 193 for 4. Winner. It's interesting. I would think that this would qualify as the biggest enigma in this entire tournament so far is the efforts of that team. Full and sliced away outside off, and it's going to run away for 4. So for a fortuitous boundary there for Ali Sheikh off of Najab Shah. They've been relatively quiet. No boundaries have been hit in the last 3 overs, but thankfully for them, they're able to hit a boundary here to start the top of the 19th over. More than that, I think you might get dropped the first game.
And one thing to know, Ahmed Butt has been here for a very long time. He's 26 for 34 or something along those lines. And look, one thing's for sure: anyone who he has partnered with, they have gone to do great things. So maybe it's not Ahmed Butt's batting, it's his partnership skills. He gets the good players on the strike, and those players, they perform. That's super great. He's a very good team player, and that's something to take into account. But I also want to see him smash some balls, so please, hit some 6s.
That's an interesting observation, Moise. But I think you keyed in on something important. The fact that batting in cricket obviously is done in partnerships. And a solid or a successful partnership depends on each partner knowing their role. And for each of the partnerships that Ahmed Butt has been a part of, and he's been a part of probably now 4 partnerships in this innings, he has taken the back seat comfortable enough to just rotate the strike, give the strike to the opposing or the more aggressive partner. And that has succeeded in him having 26 off 34, but more importantly, helping to set the table for everybody else. And this is 2 runs, run very quickly. So 2 runs more to the total for Ahmed, but he's on 28 now. And the overall score moves to 206 for 4, with 7 balls to be bowled here in the innings. Question now to be asked, does Ahmed Butt switch gears and try to hit big here in the last few balls? And there's your answer, right down the ground. Couple of bounces for 4.
Yeah, perfect. It's like he heard exactly what I'm saying. He's a good partner, but it's so late in the innings that, yeah, it's his turn, and he needs to smash balls. Exactly. He comes at number 3, and I think that position is perfect for him, since anyone who he partners with is so well. It's just the perfect spot for him to come in and take control of the game when one of the openers gets out fairly early. Like Dishan Ashraf usually performs very, very well. He got out, but then and John Campbell, yep, that's that. But here's the thing. There's one over left, and what were our predictions? You said 234, and I said below 230. Can they get 20 runs in one over?
Can they?
I don't know. You just looked at me. I think that's a win in my books.
Okay, so one for me and one for you. I think we're even.
2 for me.
Okay, we're not counting yesterday. That's a whole different day. That doesn't even count. We'll take a look at the points table here after the last over. Last over about to be bowled by Wasim Gilani. Wasim Gilani, thus far, three overs, 1 for 38. He'll be bowling here to Ali Sheikh. Right arm bowling around the wicket to Ali Sheikh. Here he comes. Ball is punched into the cover. It's right on the edge of the circle. In fact, all of the fielders in the circle are on the edge of the circle. So nobody's truly going after that ball. Really interesting. I don't see a lot of urgency at this point, either by the bowling side or the batting side. I'm not sure why the energy has come down a little bit. So we want to have 5 balls remaining in this innings. But either way, 1 run to the score or 1 score to the total. 32 from 36 is Ahmed Button. He's now the one on strike. 211 for 4 the total. We're in the last 5 balls of the innings.
Yeah, you can tell. At one point we were saying they'll score at least 250 runs based on that performance from John Campbell. But once his middle order batsman got out.
Oh,
wow,
what a shot by Ahmed Butt. Oh, he pounced on that short ball and absolutely smacked it wide of mid-wicket for 6 runs. That is an absolutely imperious shot. 217 for 4 now the score. Oh, he jumped all over that ball. It's almost like he was expecting it.
Has Ahmed Butt picked on Moises' comments from just a couple of minutes ago? Totally changed gears. It's a different player since.
Absolutely. I do have a prominent effect on players. How has Majid bowled since I spoke about him? Can we get a scorecard? But anyways, great
Hammered
shot.
straight down the ground, but straight to that fielder down at long off. They get a single, and that's all they'll get.
Look, what is it now? 218?
218 for 4.
You know, that's a respectable score, but against a team like the Stallions, with consistent 200s every time, this is definitely gonna be a nail biter. But I think without the likes of Sean Finley bowling, because of his injury, I think the Stallions can take this one. Because when Sean Finley was bowling, before he even got injured, he took 2 wickets against who? Who was the first game the Stars played this year? Against a team, okay, 2 wickets in like 2 overs, phenomenal. But I think without the likes. Not right, yeah. I think without the likes of Sean Finley bowling, I think the Stallions take this one. That's my prediction.
Yes.
This ball is driven down the ground, very full and very straight. 2 runs more to the total. Ahmed Butt will now be the batsman on strike to face the last delivery of the innings. 221 for 4 is the score.
The Stallions are notorious for giving a lot of extras. They've done it almost every
In
game.
the air, down towards long on. That's a great stop by the fielder running around right in front of us. And He saves 2 runs as the batters cross for two. So at the end of a very entertaining first inning, the score is 223 for four. And, John Campbell got things started off with a flyer. The innings sort of died a little bit after he got out. A little bit more of acceleration after Damon Ebanks came in and started going crazy. Then after he got out, there was moderate to low scoring in the overs between, say, 11 and 15, and then a little bit of impetus put in towards the back end of this innings, especially after Ahmed Butt started opening things up. So at the end of the over and the end of the innings, we have 223 not out, and the Stallions will have to haul down 224.
What a great innings and so many good partnerships. This is definitely going to be if the Stallions can put up a high score, this is probably going to be one of the most entertaining games that we've seen so far. I was hoping that the Gladiator Stallions game would be as entertaining, but the pressure that the Stallions bowlers put on was just phenomenal. But the Stars did a really good job in denying that pressure, and we'll see how it goes.
And we'll go back to the Katy East field for a quick update. So after 18 overs, it seems Knight Riders are currently at 146 for 6. And Just Karan scored 64 of 47 balls with 5 sixes, out of which we assume 4 balls were lost on the Katy Hockley Street, just outside the ground. And Jawad Khalid is still batting on 27 of 15 balls with 3 massive sixes. And they've just lost the wicket of Farooq Tariq, who scored 2 runs in 3 balls. So with 2 overs to go, the score is 146. And I guess the biggest question is, are Knight Riders in a good position to set up a competitive total? Because as we said, there's Milan Kumar, there's Gaurav Bajaj, there's Jagrit, there's Siddhesh. They've got a pretty decent batting lineup. And I think it's just not happened for Knight Riders again. In spite of that knock by Jaskaran, just no support whatsoever. So unless Jawad really takes off like only he can, it's not looking like a very competitive score, and the Knight Riders again might have their work cut out for them.
I cannot express how puzzling that is to me. This team is loaded with so much talent and so much energy. And you would think of coming into this game so much momentum, or into this tournament. But they have struggled to find any form. If one of their top order fires, the others get out cheaply. And 1 or 2 sixes per innings is what each one of the people at the top of the order are performing. But then immediately after they get out, or they play a dumb shot and they lose their wicket. It really is puzzling to see a team with that much potential and that much actual production coming into the tournament perform as far under par as they actually are.
And I mean, someone like Jaskaran, who was probably the biggest outside signing, overseas signing, he's ticked off twice in 4 innings. He's got 250s. But besides that, no one has really come off. I think even the other batsmen have failed to get into double digits, get scores of 20s and 30s. So that's quite baffling. And the bowlers actually just haven't had anything to defend in all these games. So that's going to be a very interesting competition. We'll keep an eye on that chase because as we showed you the points table, and we'll try to pull up the points table again for you real quick. The Knight Riders have been sitting on number 4 position in the points table, and the Gladiators have been on number 5 position. So this could be a virtual playoff between the two, with the loser slipping to number 5 or 6, most likely number 5 because the Hurricanes haven't won a game. So the team that wins this game might have 1 foot in the playoffs. So that remains to be seen how the chase from the Gladiators goes.
It'll be interesting to take a look at the points table. The first day, looking at the points table now, it appears that the Houston Stallions are at the top of the table with 6 points. Power Stars is second with 4. The Houston Stars with 4, but the Power Stars, by virtue of a better net run rate, are on top there. And then the UMFC Knight Riders, as we speak, are in the 4th position with 2 points, equal number of points as the Creek-based Prime Gladiators, but again, by virtue of a better net run rate, they're in that 4th position. Gladiators 5 and the HCL Hurricanes do not yet have a point.
And Brian, an interesting development what we've seen over the years, and it seems to be a preferred option, is in the playoffs we go to the eliminators, and that's the team plays 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4. So the winner of the first eliminator or the qualifier proceeds straight to the finals. So the preferred route for a lot of teams who are competing in this format is to finish number 1 or 2 on the table so that they avoid playing that extra eliminator game.
Sure.
So that's why we had all those cheers from Power Stars. But I mean, I would want to get to their management, and I think even if they are well placed in that last game, that game they're playing right now, there is a serious net run rate deficit between them and the Stallions. So unless the Stallions really stumble and lose this game by a big margin, I don't see how the Power Stars could overtake them tonight on the points table. Just not happening. As far as, I think they should rather be concerned about the other situation. Stallions losing is not going to help their cause, but Stars winning might actually tumble them from that second position. And once you're at number 3, you're again looking to play that second eliminator game. So it's quite interesting, the twists and turns these points tables throw along the way.
Well, that's why if you're watching the basketball NBA playoffs from, let's say, 10 or 15 years ago, you know that Marv Albert used to call Mike Patella the czar of the telestrator. You're playing a similar role here for us because the way that you're able to break down this analysis, I think it's something that cannot be overstated. Very, very helpful analysis, and it also helps to add some color and some context to all of the sounds that we hear around the ground right now.
I think I've picked up a proficiency in that analysis because I've been at the receiving end of the fury from team owners, managements, captains when they find themselves at the wrong end of such equations. So we have to come prepared, Brian. It's quite it gets pretty challenging once you get to the business end of the tournament. And I think there are some very professional setups who have a management who are working on these mathematical equations from time to time. And I think we have come to that end of the tournament where people are staring at that table, the calculators have come out, and they're working on every possible permutation and combination. So it's going to be interesting. Once we are done with the games today, it would be worth looking what the point table is, and who knows what tomorrow has in store for us.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. Well, a quick break, shall we? And we will rejoin the action when it comes back in, let's say, 5 or so minutes.